Okay, I watched Sean Combs' The Reckoning, so you don't have to, or if you don't have time to, or whatever. And of course, there's no real spoilers per se because we all know how the case came out. But I've made some stories on Diddy, of course, and but this was put together well. And sometimes, like when I do my documentaries about anything, the CIA and drugs and all that, when you see all the information, like all these incidents, oh, this happened 31 years ago, and then this happened 21 years ago, incidents that are so scattered in time that when they happen, you just think, oh yeah, some wild shit. But when you see it in a documentary and you realize, like, oh wow, this same person, is these same extreme patterns of behavior. Why is he even famous in the first place? What type of industry would like what is he even doing? What is his role? He's not a music maker. So it's very powerful in that sense. Now quick little addendum here. There is footage, it's built around, there's interviews with one of the rappers that Ghost wrote for him, several of the women that made accusations against him, obviously not Cassie, one of the male dancer escort guys, Kirk Burroughs, who claims he started the company with him and got jerked out of his 25% of Bad Boy. A little bit of Roger Bond, a few assorted people. It's well done, but there's a lot of it in good archival footage. Netflix gave 50 Cent the support and the money to make a good thing. I mean, if you're into it, it's well done. But they got all this private footage of Diddy in the days really leading up to, well, around some of the days early on when the rumors were swirling and he went and hung out in New York thinking he was going to get picked up, but then he didn't. And then also after he had been charged and he had lawyers and there's him talking on the phone. And Diddy is upset. He's talking about suing Netflix for that footage appearing. Now, Roger Bonds just dropped. Roger Bonds, Diddy's former bodyguard, former Harlem street guy who, I guess by his own admission, sold drugs in the 80s, killed someone, served time in prison for it. So it's, and then he became Diddy's bodyguard. Well-spoken guy. And Roger Bonds has lost his son to his son went over to Africa and got involved in like a murder for hire in Africa, but that's a whole other thing. That Harlem world, you guys definitely try to go out and get it, but you get a little extreme sometimes. But anyways, Roger Bonds just dropped a thing saying, hey, everyone's hitting me up like, how did Netflix or 50 Cent get this footage of Diddy, just in the days leading up, like he's in the hotel room talking to his lawyers, he's riding around Harlem. Well, he basically broke it down. Diddy had a pattern of always working somebody, getting young videographers, and probably doing the same thing that he did, the way he got Ciroc popular. Remember when he was doing anyone that had a hot song, French Montana, whoever, suddenly there's a remix with Diddy, and they holding up Ciroc bottles. He did it with Rick Ross, and it did. If you're whoever, if you're French Montana, if you're Rick Ross in the early stage of your career and you have a hit, and the Diddy of 05, 07, 012 calls you, 015 calls you and was like, yo, this song's hot, let's get this remix. I mean, you can't say no. Like, just as a strategic move, sure, I'll do a remix with Diddy. Sure, you can hold up your Ciroc bottles. Sure, I'll be a Ciroc boy. Right? Diddy had $130 million in declared taxable income in as late as 2017. I mean, Diddy knew how to make money. But so a guy that knows how to make that much money still wants to dominate others, and the people, the young camera crew that filmed him, because he was filming it for his own purposes, he wants people with him 24 hours. a camera crew in New York, I mean, even if it's just two guys, you gotta be getting even if you're giving him and why would you give Diddy a discount? But two people, you gotta be getting 100 an hour, which is low. If you're with them 24 hours, even for a week, you might be with them 140 hours that week. That's $24,000. 2 weeks is $50,000. He didn't want to pay, and I guess it's their, I guess it might be a legal question, but it's kind of like if you pay me to videotape you, I have possession of the video, and you don't pay me for the hours that we agreed upon. Is it mine to sell to somebody else? That'll be a legal question. It probably is. I mean, So what is so, and you've heard this all talked about before, but what really, when you watch Diddy's story, Life Rise Enough, and there's a lot of new stuff in this. They go back in his childhood with a guy who's Diddy's age who actually grew up in the same two-family flat there in Mount Vernon and is about his same age and worked with him for a long time. Diddy himself in the interview, he really got famous from the trampling death of the 9 people at the basketball game, which when you think about that, his name got big off of, for all the concerts, and I'm someone who's done back in the days to promote concerts, nightclubs. We did some pretty big stuff. We did everything from high school stuff to rappers, concerts to, and I wasn't the money person, but I was finagling in there. I was, I'm experienced with that. There's concerts and stuff all across America and celebrity basketball games, obviously going on all the time. And a very infinitesimal number of them lead to 9 people being. And what a way to go. Watch the documentary if you want to see the footage. They have the footage of dragging out people's lifeless bodies who died from being trampled, which what a way for a young you're a 19-year-old girl, you want to go to the cool basketball game and you get trampled to death because they oversold the tickets and they only spent $500 on security. So no respect for other people's life or safety. You sold 4,000 tickets to a 2,000 venue and you don't even pay for security. And then he did some funny stuff. Of course, he went and made press releases and made him say, I just wanted to do something to help black people. And, that's another thing. He would frequently in times of trouble fall back on, I just want to see black people win and I like bring black people together and this is for my black people. And that sounds good. That's fine, right? Black people could use some solidarity and stick together. Now, all that sounds good, but, when you really are getting into observing what he personally is doing, you're like, well, you're using that. And there was a very powerful moment that made him look bad, just as a person, late in the doc. And this is some of the footage that he wouldn't have wanted to get out, but because he didn't pay the cameraman, according to Roger Barnes, so all the people around him, Roger Barnes and different people are saying this guy ain't been in he don't hang out in Harlem, and why would he? Frankly, right? But Harlem, and don't let them tell you Harlem's gentrified. Harlem's not the same as it was back in the day, but Harlem's still it's going to be predominantly black. We were just in Harlem hanging out with Branson. Damn, it's been a year now. I like Harlem, but, it's still Harlem. It can be a little aggressive, and it's definitely predominantly heavily black. There's some areas where you see some white people, but it's clear that Puffy, Diddy, Sean Combs likes to, when the weight of the world is coming down on him, once this case got charged, now he wants to go back to his original base. I'm going to go hang out in Harlem. And that's fine, but there's a scene He's a lot of people when coming up to him, shaking his hand. We support you, Puff, and we love you up here in Harlem. And he gets in the SUV, and immediately he's like, yo, I need some hand sanitizer. I done touched 150 people. Matter of fact, take me to the room. I need to take a bath. I done touched so many people. And he's right in a sense. I mean, when you're a public, that's how you get sick, shaking hands and stuff with 100 people. But he didn't have to. The way he said it, it definitely was like, oh, I just had to touch a bunch of black people. Let me wash them off. That was the vibe. So a lot of little moments like that. I mean, he certainly never seemed remorseful about anything. Not that he necessarily, well, in the Cassie case, we all know about, is it just me? I mean, me and my father were talking about it. It was like during the case, weren't we all waiting for like, well, when's the good stuff? When's the video of Justin Bieber getting a train ran on him by NFL players gonna come out? Like, where's the exciting stuff that we were promised? It was just, well, we all know what it was. We won't rehash that. But so to know that Diddy, he out of his own mouth, he said what made my name big in New York, because he was an intern at Uptown Records. Low intern, and he was throwing those parties. 9 people died. That was a big tragedy. I don't know how he did not get charged. If that had been a white event, and it's not that the police value white people more, it's that middle-class white parents are not inured to their teenage children being killed, and they would have raised more of a ruckus. Whereas, unfortunately, I think, especially you go back to Harlem in the 90s, a lot of violence. I mean, did these kids' parents not push the police? Like, how did he not get charged? He did have a female Jewish partner that they kind of don't ever mention, and I don't know how nobody got charged. Like, they oversold it and didn't have security. It was some type of negligent homicide of some. This is a guy that was a bad decision maker and at least needed to be, 6 months on Rikers Island and some fines, and like, you can't throw parties, like something, because he was a guy that was not a good decision maker. But after he got out of that, he became a new, darker person. Kirk Burrows is a tall, kind of funny-looking guy who says he set up Bad Boy with Puffy and had a 25% share, which then Puff refused to honor, and he tried to sue him, but he had waited too long. Kirk Burrows said that during the dark times of dealing with the basketball game, that Puffy and his mother were arguing, and he snatched her up and hit her. Now, Puffy's childhood friend, like little boy, like 5-year-old friend, talks about, well, it was the 70s. That guy grew up in a household with his father and mother. Diddy's father, Melvin, of course, was deceased by the time they were living in Mount Vernon. And he talks about how, well, it was the 70s, we all got beat by our parents. But the way that Janice would beat Sean was inappropriate, like a whole nother level of violence. So the relationship between him and his mother, pretty complex and weird. Now, how did Puffy learn this, and how did he know this nightlife game so early on? Well, so Mount Vernon is where he grew up at. It's the first city north of the Bronx. It's the first suburb. I think still, it's like black, not wealthy, but like a solid middle class, kind of working middle class type, proud people. They were in the Bronx who could afford a home, a 2-family income or something. Heavy D is from there. I mean, Yonkers, I think, is the next city up where DMX is from. I mean, it's still, it's the black kind of suburban sprawl of the Bronx, I guess you could say. But Diddy went to look like they show the pictures like all white or mostly white Catholic school, which is fine. But so he's having that experience, that very mainstream, and being around kids who maybe his father's on Wall Street or stuff. His mother was, well, it sounded like she was running an after hours at the least out of their house. There was a stage in the house. So there would be big dance parties with maybe members of the Knicks, people that might have been part of the Pimps and Hoes. She would have known the people from the Nicky Barnes heroin kingpin kind of world, of which Cavario's family was also a part of, in general terms, from Melvin. Now, whether he got killed for being a snitch or not, I mean, you still know. She's the woman. I mean, you still know all these people socially. So she was able to, sounds like, dabble in maybe the illegal nightlife. Not saying it was prostitution or anything, though it could have been. But Puffy grew up in a house where there were parties, and there were so many parties and they were so elaborate. There was a dance floor, like a parquet dance floor, built into the living room in this big. It looked more like a what do they call it, two-family flat in Detroit. I don't know what they call them in New York, where it's a very large. It would be a very big house, but it's divided into upstairs and downstairs, each of which is like a reasonable size house, like 2 bedrooms and a bath, whatever. So he definitely grew up different. He goes to Howard. He's throwing parties there. I heard about those. Those are legendary. He's making money. So he knew how to do parties. They show some interesting footage. Not interesting, but footage you might have never thought you saw. His very first entree into the entertainment industry is him background dancer in a couple music videos when he's real skinny and nerdy looking, and he's doing all the... So he was into dancing, like he just wanted to be in front of the camera. I think he became the businessman always with the eye to get himself in front of the camera. He gets fired from Uptown Records because of the debacle of the basketball game. But Andre Harrell lets him keep Biggie because the album is already done. That was Puff's first project. But it wasn't released. So he's like, well, you can spin off and have your own record company and you can take Biggie, but you're going to have to buy the album from us. So Kirk Burroughs, he has the industry connects. He goes to different, he's the one that ends up, according to him, getting them to Clive Davis at Arista, who hears the album and sets Puffy up with Bad Boy Records. Clive Davis, I've done a story on him. He has a long history. He narrowly avoided a long prison term in the 70s for a very serious payola scandal. His right-hand man was at CBS. He got fired from CBS Records. That's why he had to go and start Arista. CBS Records was the biggest thing at the time. Clive Davis discovered many of the biggest white acts of the 60s and 70s and the black acts. Like, he was Clive Davis. If you're into music industry history and you know all the acts Clive Davis associated with, big deal guy. And even getting into bed with him, so to speak, would open a lot of doors. But Clive broke him off some good money. And Biggie was an amazing talent. So again, at this point, Puffy is not really exhibiting any masterful... He doesn't seem like a business genius, right? He's the right person at the right time. He's urban. He's, like this is hip-hop is becoming super popular, but it's moving into the era of what's going to be Jay-Z and 50 Cent and Biggie and, where it's not LL Cool J and Run DMC, where those are almost like, and I love LL Cool J and Run DMC and all that, but they're kind of like novelty acts. Not in the sense they're not good, but like, it's like, oh, this is this rap stuff. But as it's getting more mainstream, and Biggie was one of the people that helped do that, Puffy, as we all know, well documented. He'll sit in the studio and, turn that snare up and then make himself producer. So he knew how to do that. He knew how to get a lot of an artist's budget in his own pocket. But Biggie was an amazing talent, and that album went huge. And then Biggie gets killed, and then there's the circumstantial evidence of like they could have been in Europe doing promo. Biggie didn't want to go. He had a broken leg. They were warned, don't come to LA, you're gonna get killed. Does that mean Sean Combs took Biggie to LA with the hopes he'd get killed? I probably not, but the possibility hangs in the air. What did Puffy have? You could definitely see Puffy being. They have a little Tupac segment, and Kirk Burroughs talks about how he and Puffy and the other producers sat in the Tupac I Get Around video and broke it down with a microscope, like, what is this guy doing? And they applied it to Biggie. Now, Biggie was a better rapper just on some rap shit, but he couldn't compete visually and, charismatically with Tupac until they put that sauce on him. So when you put Biggie's lyrical skills, and now you got talking to him about like he's a mob boss, and you got him in the Versace, and that Ready to Die was like, oh, like, that's still, to me, I like Nas, Illmatic. If Biggie's first album, if you want to say that's the best, just if you're into rap music, just rapping, if you wanted to say that's the best album, I wouldn't argue with you. And as far as someone with just a voice that when he starts rapping, you're like, oh, that's what rap is. That's a guy from New York rapping about, like, it's Biggie. So he happened to, have one of the great talents. Whatever the case of him, did he cause Biggie to get killed? Let's assume he didn't, but that helped him again. That was such a big deal. He was able to then put out No Way Out, his own album. So listen to the mathematics. Biggie's so Ready to Die did good numbers. He was at the Grammy, they made money, and he wasn't paying Craig Mack nothing. So Bad Boy name was up. The Biggie album was making good money. And then they were working on Biggie's second album, the double CD, when he gets killed, or it was done. And that went diamond. And I remember I bought it at Tower Records. It was a double CD. It was like $23.95. And they sold like 11 million units. That's, it's like 270 million in gross sales. So I don't care how much, the store's keeping half and, blah, blah, this, that, and the third. But that had to have brought in, 70, 80 million clear to Arista. Like, boom, at least. Which is a lot of money in the music. That's the thing about the music industry. It's so cheap. It's not like movies that are expensive. Album, what's the most you can spend? A couple $100,000. If you hit and your album brings in, and the catalog still generates money. They still play Biggie songs. It might have brought in 100 million, 80, 90 million to Bad Boy / Arista of profit that they hid, of course, but. And then he was able to come out with No Way Out on the wings of the Sting sample, I'll Be Missing You, which went diamond as well. That was his album, so he's got all the publishing. And at that point, he had generated a lot of damn money. But, again, then now, so think the trampling deaths, Biggie's death, now he's dating J-Lo, and then there's the incident at the nightclub in New York. The shooting was Shine, which was very tragic. A woman was shot in her eye. Like, people were disfigured for life. Shine did 10 years. Is it Puffy's fault? probably he's more involved than they could ever prove, but he wasn't found guilty, so I'm not going to say he was, but he's certainly, again, him creating these spectacles around himself for marketing purposes worked very well, but they put other people in danger. The people that came to his basketball game, the people in that nightclub, he was gonna, because what happened in the nightclub, he's in there with J-Lo, he's throwing money around. This 2099, the streets of New York are still full of old school gangsters. It's a guy from New York, Brooklyn named Scar. He's like, don't be throwing money at people, that's disrespectful. And he threw some money at him, and then it escalated from there. People don't want money thrown on them. That's how T.I. got his friend killed in Cincinnati, if you didn't know, from back in the day. T.I. was trying to act like the dope man, throwing money at people in Cincinnati. Well, the people throwing the concert or associated with it in Cincinnati was some real serious guys, and they like, don't throw money at us. We throw the money. And they chased him on the highway, and whatever happened. So these very negative events, deaths, are the pinnacle points. You know, the only time of Puffy really being big in music was with Biggie. And then everything else was just, and then he had the gimmick. Okay, and then he came up with the gimmick that Kirk Burrows said he got that idea from Brucey B, the DJ, and the Spotlight, or the Rooftop in Harlem. And listen, in creative world, you borrow ideas from people. It is what it is. But he found, sometimes in this entertainment stuff, there's little simple tricks you find. Like, oh shit, if I just do this, is doing something to the human brain that just makes people like it. Those stripped down boom bap rap beats with R&B singing over it. Jodeci, Mary J. Blige. For whatever reason, that sound, which isn't, once you have made it, it's not, because it wasn't that complicated. You know, if you had the right people, it wasn't hard to make that. It was just an idea he got from Brucey B, mixing R&B singing over boom bap beats just in the club, and people would go crazy. So Puffy was like, oh shit, I should do that in the studio, and he did, and it worked. So a gimmick. He's paid for the sample of a lot of big songs. You know, when you sample Donna Summer, I'm Coming Out, the original was a bigger hit than the Biggie song. I'm Coming Out was huge. Diana Ross was huge. A lot of those songs those guys were sampling in that era, Diddy especially, were huge when they came out. I mean, they were proven mega hits. So, first of all, a lot of the money that those songs made didn't come to them. And of course they were hits because they already were hits. So, he was keeping himself popular, but when you're living on samples, you're getting less money than you might think, well, than the public would think. Then the making a band thing, that was predatory. He saw that, you know, stuff was dying out. Mace left him. The making the band, he got in on that reality TV, which was nonsense. It was just about, he got himself his face on MTV for free for hours a week, which was what his goal was, to keep himself famous. And then that just morphed into the final thing where Ciroc, which was a brand owned by one of the big global liquor companies, came to him, was like, well, we got this liquor and this doesn't sell very, it was kind of dead. Well, let's give it a try. If you can pop it off, we'll give you, just like Musk just got that deal. He'll get $1 trillion in 10 years if he gets Tesla up to these certain sales. Well, they gave Puffy these real high sales numbers and said, well, you can get 16, 18, 20 million a year, and he did it. So Puffy made, from like 2010, 2007 or 6, maybe 06 to 2023 or something, 18 years, he made $60 million a year. He made, like, they say, just under $1 billion he was paid by Ciroc and fees. So that's where his money was coming from. And I'm sure he owns Biggie's Publishing and everyone else does, everyone, Bad Boy, Little Kim, you name it. So, and then he, really has no musical legacy. Selling liquor to me is like selling drugs. I mean, I'm not and listen, I use liquor. I've sold liquor at clubs and after hours. I've sold drugs, used drugs, so I'm not being judgmental. But I personally, I wouldn't run a liquor company. I think it's like being a drug dealer, but that's here nor there. But so really, a lot of what he's done is it's some predatory business stuff where he used the fact that he could bridge the white mainstream, but he could still do his half little Harlem roots and make use of that and be in the black community and mine it for everything that was, this is what's popular, I'm gonna take all that and package it up and I'm gonna sell it. And Russell Simmons was doing the same thing, and a lot of people were. They were taking the streets, sanitizing it, packaging it up. And in Puffy's case, he relived his father's era, right? He sampled all these songs that was from the 70s, that was from his mother and father's era. Well, his father was killed in 73, but, and he got that blaxploitation look back in. It was like he redid that era, which was that blaxploitation thing. The music and those films were like those were actually, for a couple years, kind of kept Hollywood afloat. In between the movies of the late 60s, the counterculture movies, and before you had the new auteurs, before really Scorsese and Coppola hit their stride in the mid-70s. In the early 70s, 71, 72, movie industry was in trouble, except the blaxploitation films, which were very cheap to make, and some of them made a lot of money. Those are an important part of Hollywood history, and he took that imagery and that soundscape and turned it into rap music. So he had a great eye and ear for what people would like, but what original did he do? And again, what I got out of this is so many of the points where he got more famous and went up were about people dying at that basketball game, Biggie dying, the shooting at the nightclub, and other allegations. So it's interesting. You should watch it if you're into this stuff. And there you go. But that's my psychological analysis of it, or my highlight reel of it, sort of. But yeah. He should have paid them guys for filming him, or else the footage that makes him look like not the greatest person wouldn't have got out, and now he wants to sue from his prison cell. But Ted Sarandon, the owner of Netflix, is a big dog. For real. They just bought Paramount for $76 billion this morning. So now they got 450 million subscribers. So good luck, Puff. Out profit American dope.